Well, hello. Welcome to this birch woodland. Really beautiful in the evening light. Anyway, I thought we'd start this video here. How to dry firewood is massively the most important thing when living with wood fires. And knowing it will save you money, effort, stress, stop chimney fires, and keep your neighbours happy. Also, the ethics of all this are really important to me. I don't want to waste wood, and if your wood isn't dry, you're wasting it. And this is a precious resource. We need to get the most heat we can from every single log, and then I think we can, hands on heart, know we're doing the best with this really beautiful, absolutely renewable resource. So stay with me on this video and enjoy better wood fires for the rest of your life. We'll talk about woodshed design a little later on, but for now I just wanted to say that the key to drying your firewood is it's making the best you can of what you've got. There are lots of myths, things like oak takes 2 years and other stuff takes 1 year. None of that is strictly true. Drying your firewood, getting the moisture content as low as you can, is dependent on I just checked I did 5 there, is dependent on 5 critical points, and we'll deal with each of those one at a time now. And they are the log species, the type of tree, the size of the log, is the log split, therefore does it have bark on, and the last one, your woodshed design. So let's look at each one of those. To start with, the size. I've got a bit of larch here. I don't have to burn much softwood, but when I do, I split it pretty small because there's a bit of resin there. It takes quite a long time for the resin to come out of softwoods, so I split that fairly small. Also, I'm almost certainly going to use that early on in the fire to get it going, so small wood is best. Next, I've got this is a bit of ash, 2 bits of ash here. If you split into the squarish blocks as I like, then obviously it dries really easy, and ash is a good species to dry. There's some bark on that one, but there's massive amounts of the log without bark, so I'm happy about that. Beech is a funny old thing, and even if the logs are fairly small, I split them. I'm not a fan of big logs. It's, without being rude again, it's like a lazy man's thing. You don't need big logs. Logs of this sort of size make excellent fires, and even if we worked on the oak rule of thumb, which is 1 inch a year drying, then this beech should be well dry easily within a year. Now another one, what else have we got? Here's one of my favourites, and there's a lot around here. Birch, obviously, one of the easiest. Now, even small logs with birch I split because it helps them drying, and remember, almost every bark is more or less waterproof, and none more so than birch. Anyway, there is a trick, and this is a short birch log, but I wasn't taking any chances, and I've run the chainsaw along it when I felled it. Now this trick I picked up from going to a brush handle factory once, many years ago, when I was doing forestry work. And what they'd got, I think, birch and maple stacked in long poles, but they had ripped the bark in 3 places so that it seasoned steadily. And I thought that was such a good idea, and I've seen nobody else do it. So a log that size, I don't want to split it, but I don't want to leave it to chance. I've only ripped that one once. How much better if I'd run the chainsaw down the other side? And if you are felling your own wood, I would say, yeah, give it a go. It really helps dry that log out, and particularly with birch, stops it getting rotted, stops it spalting. Anyway, what else? Oh, oak, of course. Perhaps the king, although I do like the beech. My oak, I generally split small, something like that. So, as I said, it takes 2 years to season oak. It's absolute rubbish. That piece of oak would have been dry in, I don't know, 5 months, something like that. And this burns so well in mixture. Now, even my biggest oak, that's a big backlog. I'll put that at the back of the stove. Now, working on the idea an inch a year, my finger joints are an inch apart. There we have, it's 2 inches across. That means in 1 year it will have dried perfectly from all directions. So yeah, at least a year for a piece like that. And I anyway, will never need a bigger piece of oak than that. Lovely stuff. There is one exception to what I've just said. I regard wood fires as a bit like cooking a meal. You learn your favourite ingredients, what you can get locally. Anyway, elm. Elm for me is like the caviar of firewoods. I love it. There are some old poems that talk rubbish about elm smouldering badly. Just not true. That's because when elm is standing and green, when it's growing, it's a really wet wood. But once it's dry, oh, the embers it makes is fantastic. Anyway, so elm I treat like my favourite food. I leave the logs big. I will dry that a long time, maybe 2 full years for a log like this, and then it will give me such heat. This is a snowy day, freezing cold midwinter log. I'll put 2 of these on and they will last for hours. If you've got loads of space, like a great big old barn or something, just heap all your wood. All your wood can be loose. Obviously there needs to be airflow. If you're a bit more limited for space, like here, I've got a retaining wall and then it's loose behind because I knew this corner was going to be difficult. Where I've got tons of airflow, I pack my wood tight. Possibly this is something like 40% airspace, and when I pack it tight, I think I maybe get something like 25% airspace. So obviously there's a huge advantage with being careful and making a beautiful log stack. The other thing is you've got to look at it for at least a year, so be proud of it. Love your wood stack. As Thoreau said and is famously quoted, every man looks on his wood pile with a kind of affection. I hope I got that right. So in summary, I would say take control of your firewood. You know your climate, you know your wood stove, you know how quickly you need it to dry, and you know what log species are available locally. So take control, manage your wood for your needs. I've talked a lot about how to dry your firewood, but I haven't yet explained what dry actually means. Now, dry in the world of wood fuel firewood means moisture content of 20% or less. This seems to be an industry standard and it's a compromise. Obviously having your wood drier than that is great, but it's often not practical. So wood more than 20% is not ready to burn. Wood with a moisture content of less than 20% or less is ready to burn. Bloody wasp. Thank you for staying with me to the end. This is a really important subject. If you know how to dry your firewood, you'll put in less effort, less money, less stress, less smoke, happier neighbours and no chimney fires, hopefully. Anyway, the next thing really is why this is so important. And we'll look at latent heat, but I'll do that in another video. Anyway, thank you. Have good wood fires.